Texas A&M adds 4-star running back Deondrae Riden to finally really secure the running back position for the future.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, Texas A&M adds a running back to the 2025 recruiting class. Deondrae nickname Tiger Riden, whatever it is, pronunciation. I think we're going to go with Riden. I think that's how we're going to roll with it. But Tiger is an awesome nickname. I'm a huge nickname guy. I'm a big believer in if you want to succeed in college football, in college baseball, anything, college basketball, you got to have a great nickname. Boots Radford, Will the Blanket Lee. Texas A&M's full of them. And here's another one in Tiger. 4-star running back from DeSoto, Texas, 5'10", 195 pounds. He's ranked as the 216th best player in the 24/7 Sports composite rankings. So you might say, well, Andrew, why did you claim that, the running back position is finally set up for the future? And I'll tell you, it's pretty simple. Texas A&M didn't have a running back in the 2024 recruiting class. They did get a transfer in E.J. Smith. And we'll talk about the room as a whole here in a minute. But not bringing in a running back, I'm always a believer, and Brian Smith, our Locked On recruiting analyst, who, like I said, we're going to have on, and the plan for that is Friday. We're going to have Brian on every Friday. That's the plan going forward. With I told y'all I'd update y'all on that. But he always says, you want to fill every position in every single recruiting class. Not having a running back in the 2024 class, I get that Texas A&M is stacked there right now. You're in a good spot right now with running backs. But still, I don't like not having a running back, not having any position in a class, especially running back where you were getting hit a lot. They get injured a lot. We saw last year. We saw Le'Veon Moss in and out of the lineup. Running back is a position where it is easy to get banged up. So I think the point here is, I'm glad you got a running back in the 2025 class. And frankly, I wouldn't be upset if you went and got one more to kind of make up for the lack of running backs in the 2024 class. Running back is a position. I know you got the young guy in Reuben Owens, and everybody, E.J. Smith, even all these guys got a little bit of eligibility left. So I just think that my point here is, I wouldn't mind if you went and got another one, because I think you got to make up for not having one in that 2024 class. So if Ryden's your guy, that's great. He can be your guy in the running back. But I wouldn't mind, go to get a 3-star and go get, there are different styles of running back. You got your speedsters, you got your bruisers, you got your shifty guys. Go get a different style of running back. Although I do think Riden is kind of a mix of all. We'll talk about him as a player here in a minute. But go get a bruiser maybe, or go get somebody that can get you a first down on 3rd and 1, or score a touchdown on 3rd and goal from the half-yard line. Go get somebody like that. There's lots of different things you could do with that next running back, but I wouldn't mind going to get another one to make up for the lack of running back in last year's recruiting class, or this year's, I guess, still technically, even though we're moving on to 2025. But there were a lot of big dogs in play for Riden. You got offers Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Miami, Missouri, Oklahoma, Oregon, Ole Miss. Everybody wanted this guy. And when you watch the tape, you'll understand why. Now, one thing I want to add, And listen, I'm not taking anything away from Riden, but his offensive line was incredible. Incredible. So that was like, I want to sign every kid on that offensive line. I mean, it was really impressive watching those guys block. So not taking anything away from Riden, because there were a lot of plays where he, maybe was given a good hole from the O line, but he still had to make a guy miss, linebacker miss, whatever it was. And he did. But I'm just saying, shout out to the O line there, because they are incredible. And I think Riden would tell you the same thing. I think he'd tell you, I'm running behind some good players. But the first thing I noticed is he's got great vision. And one thing I always add, I love getting out to see the high school kids play, like the commits play. And the reason I do is because, like, we're looking at highlights. On highlights, you can kind of see a lot of positives, and you can see the traits that these players have, but you don't see plays where they don't make the right decision or they do something wrong. And what I noticed on every single one of the highlights is Riden has great vision. He always picked the right hole. With that offensive line, like I said, he could have picked between 3 holes and probably gained some positive yardage on each of them, but he always seemed to find the right hole that gave him a big gain. So that vision was very clear. And vision, running backs, I told you, he's 5'10", 195. That's college football already kind of weight. Really, he looks like a college football ready running back. And so looking at the vision to me is what makes you, can you play early on in your college career? I always say running back's a position where you can play early, because the vision's really everything. If you have good vision, you likely, unless you're one of those like really small running backs that's kind of like a gadget guy, I think you can play early on into your college career, and that's what Riden is. 5'10", 195 pounds. He's ready to play college football. And I think he's got the vision to play college football, and that's everything. If you can, in that half second you have to do it, grab the football from the quarterback and see where you need to go, and you make right decisions 8 times out of 10, you're a college football ready running back, and that's what I see from Riden when I watch the tape when it comes to his vision. But he also, I like that he adds, he's fast, incredibly fast. Like he runs away from people. He's fast, he's shifty, he makes people miss, and I like that he also can run you over. So that's what I talked about. Because running back is a position where there are players that just, this guy's fast, this guy run you over, this guy will make you miss. From the tape I watched, he ran some people over, he made some people miss, and he ran away from some folks. So I think that he can do it all as a running back, which is great. You all know I love versatility when it comes to high school recruits. I love it when these players can do everything you need them to at the position, and then they can kind of develop all those skills when they get to college. So I feel really good about Riden, the type of player he is. Highly recommend going to watch the tape. Once again, if you just go to his 24/7 Sports profile, it's really good tape. And once again, shout out to that O-line. Man, pretty O-line play brings me joy, and that's what it was. But, Riden is just, he's a running back who I think can play early on in his Texas A&M career at a position of need. Like I said, I feel good about the running backs you have for this upcoming season, but then what's going to happen? The portal's a thing, and players are starting to get older, and you don't got the young guy except for Owens, and it's like, you got to bring these guys in. So as I said, I wouldn't mind going and get one more running back, but the one that Texas A&M now has in the 2025 recruiting class, Deondrae Riden, I feel really good about. I think he's talented, and I think he is going to have a really good career at Texas A&M, and he's got the size and the skill. I wouldn't be surprised to see him shoot up as an NFL running back at some point in his career. And as I always tell y'all, look at the offer list. The offer list is incredible. And the last thing I will say before we move on here, there are not 21 running backs in this recruiting class better than Riden. It's very simple. So awesome nickname, awesome player. Very excited about his commitment to Coach Elko and the 2025 recruiting class. That brings Texas A&M to 4 total commits, and the class is ranked 18th overall. Starting to feel good about it. Coach Elko is going to recruit at a high level. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a little bit of a ceiling and floor conversation and then talk some basketball. We're going to do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet all of your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and a ton more. NBA All-Star break is wrapping up. You'll be able to bet some NBA basketball soon. College basketball still going on. MLB is right around the corner. And as I told y'all, a lot of college baseball fans here at Locked On Aggies and our everydayers and community. So listen, I hit a parlay betting on FanDuel, betting on SEC teams to win non-conference games. So just remember that. I highly recommend it. Bet on the SEC teams against the not as good opponents. Highly recommend it. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA and the Locked On Podcast Network. So, I was sitting and I was kind of thinking, I was thinking college football playoff yesterday and thinking and then I was like, that takes me to the ceiling and the floor for Texas A&M. So let's get into it. I think that the ceiling and the floor for this football team is a little more narrow than it was last year. It's funny, last season, I'm pretty sure that we had the ceiling listed at 6 wins and the floor listed at 10. And that's a huge gap. This year, I've had it close a little bit. So I have the ceiling for Texas A&M at 10 wins and the floor at 7 wins. And, so once again, last year, I think it was 10-6. This year, it's 10-7. And the 7 has to do with this schedule. Once again, I mean, you probably feel better about last year's roster, but you feel better about this year's schedule while also not feeling, concerned with this year's roster. So, now, in all honesty, and you hate to put this on a first-year coach, you really do, but I think that 7 would be a disappointment. I mean, I think 7 wins, just knowing that this schedule, I think 8 wins would make everybody feel great. I think we'd all feel good about 8 wins. 9 wins, 8 wins plus, I think everybody's happy. 7 wins, I just think it would be a little bit because I just don't see I don't see a ton of losses on the schedule. And listen, those we've got our Texas fans that listen. We've got some other folks, in which we really appreciate you being here. But I already see it. I already see them coming to the comments and saying, "Oh, Texas A&M, they're not going to win. They're going to disappoint like always." I get it. I do get it. If you want to say that, because history has proven that under Coach Fisher, and except for really 1 year, But the point is, it's a new regime here. There's a new coaching staff, new players, new culture. And I think that Coach Elko is building this thing the right way. I think he's got an incredible coaching staff. I think he's got a really good roster. And I think he is adding, talented football players, both in the high school recruiting class, in the portal. So what I'm saying is I think Texas A&M can win 8+ games this year. That's why I have the ceiling at 10. And then so it's funny. We'll have some fans of other fan bases saying, "Andrew, there's no way in the world Texas A&M wins 8 games." And then I'm going to have Texas A&M fans saying, "Andrew, if we don't win 11, we got to win 11." I think that somewhere in the middle is where this is going to land. I think it's 8 to 10 wins. Once again, I think you've got pretty easy victories against McNeese, Bowling Green, New Mexico State, Mississippi State, and South Carolina. I think you have 5 pretty easy wins. I do. I think that, or in Arkansas, excuse me, so 6. So, so McNeese, Bowling Green, Arkansas, Mississippi State, South Carolina, New Mexico State. I feel good about those 6 games. I think Texas A&M wins those 6 games. I think the way that the way you hit the floor is losing one of those 6 games. So if you win those 6 games, you've then got your 2 toss-ups in Auburn and Florida. So what I've kind of talked about the schedule, I think the way to 8 wins is going 6-0 in those games we talked about, those 6 games. Going 1-1 against Auburn and Florida. And then in the remaining 4 games of Notre Dame, Missouri, LSU, and Texas, which all 4 of those games are at home, winning one of those games. So you win one of those games. You go 1-1 against Auburn and Florida. You go 1-3 in those 4 games and 6-0 in the other games we talked about. That is an 8-4 season. That is an 8-4 year, which would put you above the floor, below, I think, the ceiling. So that's the route to 8 wins. The route to 7 wins to me is losing one of those games in one of those 6 games. So that gives you 5 wins there. I have a feeling, knowing how pumped up Kyle Field's going to be for those 4 games, the important home games. I just think regardless of the outcome, they're going to grab one of those games. So if they steal one of those games, I just think the route to 7 wins is you lose to 1 of Auburn and Florida. You lose to 1 of the 6 teams, and then you go 1-3. So that would be 3, 4, 5. That's how you get to 7. That's the route to 7-5. I think the route to 9 wins is you go 2-0 against Auburn and Florida, 6-0. The route to 9 is pretty simple. You go 6-0 in the games that I said you're supposed to win. You go 2-0 against Auburn and Florida on the road. And then you win one of those 4 games that you're probably not going to be supposed to win. You're not going to be predicted to win. That is your route to 9-3, which I think is very doable. I think that you can beat Florida. You can beat Auburn. Be tough places to play. The crowds are going to be pumped up. But I think both of those games are winnable. So, if you go 8-0 in those 8 games, Auburn, Florida, and the 6 we discussed, 9 wins is very much on the table, especially with how much I discussed winning those 2, winning one of those games at Kyle Field. There's no way that not one of those home games with the crowd pumped up, they're going to take a big win. So, and then the route to 10-2 for me is same thing. You beat those 6 teams. You beat Auburn and Florida on the road. There's your 8 wins. And then you go 2-2 in those tough games, whether it's beat Notre Dame and beat LSU, then lose to Missouri and Texas, or beat Texas and beat LSU, lose to Notre Dame and Missouri. Whatever that route is, that's 10 wins. And like we discussed, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, with the playoff expanding to 12 teams, the right 10-2 has a chance with college football, especially with, your Alabama coming down to earth and some of these teams, Texas joining the SEC and having to play a lot. 10-2, you never know. You never know. The right 10-2 could have you in, ranked like 10, 11, or 12 in the playoff. It really could. Not saying that's super likely, but the right 10-2 could sneak you into the back end of that playoff. Which is the fun part of the new way of the playoff. But, that'll be interesting. So, to me, ladies and gentlemen, the ceiling is 10 wins. The floor is 7 wins. But if you hit the floor, I think it would be a bit of a disappointment. I almost want to make the floor 8 games. I almost wanted to do it, but I think that'd just be a little bit crazy. But I think 7 wins would be a bit of a disappointment, knowing what you did in the portal, closing out the recruiting class, and looking at the schedule you have. I just think that would be a bit of a disappointment. But those are the routes to 7-5, 8-4, 9-3, 10-2. There's a path to all of those outcomes, and I wouldn't be surprised at any of them, but I would love to see 8-4, 9-3, or 10-2. Texas A&M has an important basketball game coming up tonight against Arkansas that I think you could argue is win or no NCAA tournament. So we're going to talk about that game, preview it coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn is something I recommend all the time, whether it's for networking, whether it's for looking for a job, looking for employees. There is no better place to do all that than LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So Texas A&M is getting ready to host the Arkansas Razorbacks in a game that, once again, I mean, we're getting to having to use the word must-win game for some of these games. I mean, I think that you have to finish. You really need to finish 10-8. I think to feel great about Selection Sunday. 9-9. It would be one of those, like, I don't know. I mean, listen, I've seen the people that do the bubble stuff and all that. I mean, I just think Texas A&M is one loss that they should win away from missing the tournament. So you play Arkansas on this. You play Arkansas this game at home at Reed Arena. You're 10.5-point favorites. The ESPN analytics give you a 90.2% chance to win this game. And I think you should win this game. I mean, we'll get into it, but I want to talk about the fact that you are currently 6-6 in SEC play with 6 games remaining. If you go 4-2 in those games, you finish 10-8. And I think that's very doable. I think that I think it would include to me, there are 5 winnable games left on the schedule. I don't think, knowing that Texas A&M already beat Tennessee at home, I think it'd be really tough to beat them at their place. So if you lose that game, the other 5 games, Arkansas coming up tonight, South Carolina, Georgia, at Georgia on the road, Mississippi State at home, at Ole Miss. All of those games are winnable, but I think you need to win 4 of them to feel really good. It starts with Arkansas tonight. South Carolina, I think, is extremely overrated. I think their coach is building a great culture over there. I think he's doing a good job, and I think he will turn that program around. And I think he's going to start getting recruits after what he's done this year, but I just think that team's overrated. The loss at home to LSU, and they lose by 40 at Auburn. I think that Texas A&M can beat them at home. So you beat Arkansas, you beat South Carolina, you beat Georgia on the road. I think that you have to go 3-0 in that stretch, and then you find a way to win 1 of 2 against Mississippi State at home and Ole Miss on the road. I think. Well, actually, let's say this. I think that Mississippi State is more winnable in South Carolina. Let's do this. Let's say you beat Arkansas, you beat Georgia on the road, you beat Mississippi State at home. You go 3-0 in those games. All you have to do is go 1-1 in the Ole Miss game and the USC game, or the South Carolina game, and I think you're good in the NCAA tournament. So you have to do it. It starts tonight. Listen, if you lose this game against Arkansas, you're in trouble. So looking at the numbers on Arkansas, they average 75 points a game, 34.8 rebounds, 11.2 assists, 5.8 steals, 6.3 blocks, 12 turnovers. They shoot 44% from the field, 31.7% from three, 71.9% from the free throw line. So, numbers, 12 turnovers is a little high. You want to put pressure on them make mistakes with the basketball. That means they block a good amount of shots. 6 blocks a game is a good amount of blocks. They don't assist a ton, so they play a lot of hero basketball. Don't let them do it. Don't let them jack up on unassisted threes, and don't let them take the ball to the rim and all that. To me, this is the game. This is what I want to see in this game. I want to see Wade have an efficient night. We know who Wade Taylor is. We know who he is as a player. I would love to see him have a night, though, where he shoots the basketball 13 times and makes 9 of those shots. I think that he's been shooting the ball a lot, which that's what he is. He's a high volume shooter, but he hasn't been shooting this high percentage. I'd love to see him have a game, because him getting like super hot is I think going to carry Texas A&M to the NCAA tournament. So if he can find a way to just start getting more efficient, making more shots, because what is that going to do? That's going to cut down on missed shots, which I know Texas A&M gets a lot of offensive rebounds, but still, missed shots are obviously not a good thing. So I'd love to see Wade be more efficient. Boots keep playing good basketball. This team, are they great offensively? No. Do they need to get better at shooting and shooting free throws? Yes. But I think that they do a good job at a lot of things. They find a way to grit games out that if this team can just get in the tournament, you never know. So this Arkansas game is the first step to that. You have to win this one. Fans need to be rowdy tonight. Big game coming up for the Aggies against Arkansas. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. And remember, we're free and available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So check the show out on all different kinds of platforms. Really appreciate it. Everybody have a great rest of your day today, and we will see you tomorrow.